Let's discuss about the Carnot engine, which is the ideal heat engine, which is invented by Nicolas Leonard Sadi Carnot, who is a French military man and who is considered to be the father of thermodynamics. Sadi Carnot gave to the world an ideal heat engine in 1824. Maxwell called it as an engine of a species entirely by in imaginary, one which is impossible to construct but very easy to understand. This ideally simple engine, operating between a source and a sink, is free from the friction and other imperfections of an actual engine. The Carnot engine absorbs all its heat at constant high temperature and rejects whatever heat it has to at constant low temperature. The Carnot engine works in a cycle of operations. Each of these operations are perfectly reversible. So these are the important peculiarities of a Carnot heat engine. To ensure these three conditions, that is free from frictions and all imperfections of an actual engine, and absorbs all its heat from a reservoir at constant high temperature and rejects whatever heat it has to at constant low temperature, and which works in a complete cycle of operations, and these cycle of operations, each of these cycle are perfectly reversible. To ensure these conditions of its working, the engine is supposed to consist of the following accessories as shown in this diagram. Here you can see that a cylinder with perfectly non-conducting walls but with a perfectly conducting bottom, fitted with a perfectly non-conducting and a frictionless piston, which actually called as the container for the working substance. So here the ideal gas is taken to be the working substance. So the working substance is taken in a cylinder with a perfectly non-conducting walls with a perfectly conducting bottom, which is fitted with a piston which is also a perfectly non-conducting, as well as having a frictionless piston. Now the another part of the Carnot heat engine is the source, which is a hot reservoir or which is a source of heat of infinite thermal capacity maintained at a constant high temperature T1. So T1 is the temperature of the source, which is maintained at a very high temperature, which is kept at constant, which acts as the reservoir of heat, which provides heat to the working substance. Now another reservoir, which is called as the cold reservoir or a sink, which is also of infinite thermal capacity maintained at a lower constant temperature. Usually it is denoted by T2. Now another part is a non-conducting or an insulating stand where the cylinder can be transferred without friction. So this working substance, the cylinder which contains the working substance, can be moved along the or over the insulating stand from the source to sink without any friction. So in order to obtain continuous supply of work, the working substance is subject to the different cycle of quasi-static operation. Generally there are four quasi-cycle of operations or quasi-static operations is carried out to ensure a continuous supply of work from a Carnot engine. So these four are the parts of an ideal Carnot engine, which consisting of a cylinder fitted with a frictionless piston having a non-conducting frame, and the walls of the cylinder are also perfectly non-conducting, but the bottom of the cylinder is perfectly conducting one. Within this cylinder the working substance is taken. In the case of an ideal Carnot engine, the ideal gas is the working substance. Now there will be a heat reservoir which is maintained at a constant high temperature, which is called as the source. The temperature of the source is taken to be T1, and there is a cold reservoir or a reservoir of maintained at a constant low temperature whose temperature is T2, and there is an insulating stand over which the cylinder can be moved from the source to sink without any friction. So this constitute the different accessories of the Carnot engine, which delivers continuous supply of work by absorbing heat from the source and performing work after the remaining heat is rejected to the sink. So to ensure a continuous supply of heat from a Carnot engine, the working substance taken in the cylinder, which is an ideal gas in the case of a Carnot engine, will undergo 4 different quasi-static operations which constitute a cycle of operations. This diagram given here, the PV diagram, depicts the different 4 steps involved or 4 processes involved in delivering the work from an ideal Carnot engine. Suppose the working substance is initially at the point A denoted by the in the PV diagram. Suppose it is having a pressure P1 and a volume V1. Now the cylinder, that is the cylinder which contains the working substance, is placed on the source and is allowed to undergo a quasi-static expansion. In this process the gas does work on the piston, hence its temperature falls, which is immediately made up by the source. This slow isothermal expansion of the gas at a constant temperature T1 is represented by an isothermal AB on the indicator diagram. So the isothermal AB here represents an isothermal process in which the working substance containing cylinder is placed over the source, so that the working substance absorbs heat from the source, and the piston is moving upwards, so that the gas is expanding isothermally. So the decrease in the temperature during this expansion of the gas is compensated by the absorbing heat from the source. So let Q1 be the quantity of heat absorbed during this isothermal expansion. Now I told you that initially the working substance is at point A having the pressure P1 and the volume V1. Then after absorbing a Q1 quantity of heat, it reaches the point B. In the indicated diagram, the point B is at a pressure P2 and volume V2. Now the temperature at point A and B are T1 itself. Now during this isothermal process, the quantity of heat absorbed by the working substance is Q1. So that is the work done by the working substance over the piston, which is given by W1 is equal to integral V1 to V2 P into dV, which can be written like this: RT1 log V2 by V1, which actually represents the area under the curve A. If you represent it as small a, and if you represent it as small b, then area under the curve small A, A, capital B, small b, A. A, represent the area of this one represents the heat absorbed during this process, or which is equal to the work done during the isothermal process. So remember this equation, RT1 log V2 by V1. Now this is the first process. Now in the second process, the working substance is moved over to the insulating stand. That means the cylinder is now removed from the source and placed over the insulating stand. The gas is thermally isolated and is allowed to continue its expansion, which is an adiabatic expansion at the expense of its internal energy. Then during this process the temperature falls to T2. So the state of the working substance after this adiabatic expansion is represented by the point C, which is having a pressure P3 and volume V3, and temperature at this state is T2. Now the work done during this process is W2 is equal to integral V2 to V3 P dV, which is an adiabatic process. So if you do the proper substitution for P in terms of V for an adiabatic process, you can solve it and find the equation as R T1 minus T2 divided by gamma minus 1, which will be equal to, if you denote it by C, then which will be equal to B C C B B. The area under the curve BCCBB will represent this work done. Now after this adiabatic expansion of the gas, the cylinder is placed over the sink, which is the third process. The working substance at C is unable to perform any work because P3 is very low. Hence it is brought back to the initial state A. For this, cylinder is kept on the sink and the piston is moved so that the gas is compressed. The heat produced due to compression passes to the sink. This operation is represented by the isotherm CD on the indicator diagram, and the work done is equal to the heat rejected. So during the third process, the cylinder is placed over and is compressed isothermally so that its pressure and volume become the point P4 and V4, the point on the indicator diagram. So during this process, the work done is the heat rejected. Let it be minus Q2, which is equal to W3 is equal to integral V3 to V4 P dV, which is an isothermal process. So P can be replaced in terms of V by using the PV is equal to RT. So we will get RT log V4 by V3. Now if you denote this by small d, then the area under the curve D, capital D, capital C small c d represents the is work done. So this work done, the work done during the third process, that is isothermal compression, will be equal to the rejected to the sink, and which is given by the expression RT log V4 by V3. Now the last stage or last process is that the cylinder is again removed to the insulating stand from the sink and compressed adiabatically, so that initial state is attained. So after adiabatic isothermal compression, the system working substance is at the point D. Now the cylinder is moved to the insulating stand again, and the compression is continued. So since no heat is absorbed or rejected from the source, it is an adiabatic process, so that the gas is compressed further, so that the initial pressure and volume are attained. The work done during this process is given by W4 is equal to again integral V4 to V1 P dV. Here it is a adiabatic process, so instead of P, if we use K by V raised to gamma, then after doing the steps you will get the equation for work done as T2 minus T1 divided by gamma, which is equal to the area under the curve A, capital D, small d, A. So now what we want to do is that we have to calculate the total work done. We are obtained the work done in each cycle, each process involved in the cycle. So the total work done will be the sum of these four works. That is, remember all the four equations, we will have to use it here. The total work done is equal to W1 plus W2 plus W3 plus W4. W1 is the work done during the isothermal expansion, W2 is the work done during the adiabatic expansion, W3 is the work done during the isothermal compression, and W4 is the work done during the adiabatic compression. So it will be equal to, the first one is RT1 log V2 by V1 plus R T1 minus T2 divided by gamma minus 1, and W3 is R T2 log V4 by V3 plus W4 is R T2 minus T1 divided by gamma minus 1. Now these two terms will cancel. What remains is RT1 log V2 by V1 plus RT2 log V4 by V3. Now if you consider the two adiabatic process, the first adiabatic process I can write it like this: T1 V2 raised to gamma minus 1 is equal to T3 V3 raised to gamma minus 1. And for the second adiabatic process, I can write like this: T2 V4 gamma minus 1 is equal to T1 V1 raised to gamma minus 1. Now if you divide these two equations, we will get V2 by V1 raised to gamma minus 1 is equal to, it's not T3, sorry, T2, V3 by V4 raised to gamma minus 1. From this we can write V2 by V1 is equal to V3 by V4. Substituting it here, we can see that the total work done during the complete cycle of a Carnot engine is given by R T1 log V2 by V1 plus RT2 log V4 by V3 can be written as V1 by V2. So which is equal to RT1 can be RT1 log V2 by V1 plus RT2 log V1 by V2 can be written as minus log V2 by V1. So this is equal to R into T1 minus T2 log V2 by V1. So this is the total work done during the one cycle of operations of a Carnot engine. Now what we have to find is the efficiency of the Carnot engine. For that, efficiency is equal to work done divided by the heat absorbed from the source. So here work done is R T1 minus T2 log V2 by V1, and we know that the heat absorbed Q1 is the work done during the isothermal expansion, that is W1, which is equal to R T1 log R T1 log V2 by V1. So log V2 by V1 and R will get cancels. What will remain is eta is equal to T1 minus T2 divided by T1, or which is equal to 1 minus T2 by T1. So this is the expression for the efficiency of a Carnot engine. So what we can say that the efficiency of a Carnot engine is written as 1 minus T2 by T1, where T2 is the temperature of the sink and T1 is the temperature of the source. So the efficiency of a Carnot engine depends only on the temperatures T1 and T2. Greater the difference T1 and T2, higher is the efficiency. So T1 minus we know that T1 minus T2 is always less than T1. So what we can say that the efficiency is always less than 1 or 100%. Now in terms of the compression ratio, the compression ratio is defined as the rho is equal to V3 by V2 or V4 by V1. These are the compressions. Then in terms of these two quantities, we can write this T2 by T1 as V2 by V3 all raised to gamma minus 1 using the adiabatic equation or equation of an adiabatic process. Then this is equal to 1 by rho raised to gamma minus 1. So the efficiency of a Carnot engine in terms of the compression ratio is given by 1 minus 1 by rho raised to gamma minus 1, where rho is the compression ratio given by rho is equal to V3 by V2 or V4 by V1. So that's all about a Carnot engine. Now we have to discuss the second law of thermodynamics, and we can see that different workers on thermodynamics defined the stated the second law in different way. So we can have five different statements for the second law of thermodynamics that we will discuss in the next video. Thank you.